Hello, happy Wednesday. I'm Beverly Hosford, and this is Erin Nitschke, my friend at NFPT. We're here broadcasting live for the National Federation of Professional Trainers, a certification company and continuing education family of fitness professionals. And today our topic is all about the first session with a new client. We've been talking about interviews the last few weeks, and we realized that one of the most nerve-wracking interviews that happens in your career as a fitness professional or anyone that sees clients is that first session. It can really be a big interview and a new interview every single time that you have somebody come onto your schedule. So, Erin, how are you doing today, my friend? You are just getting started with your college courses. I'm kind of curious what you're teaching this semester.
I am teaching a lot. In total, it's about 25 credits. So that's a lot. For someone that's not a full-time faculty member, it pretty much is 2 full-time loads. So I have a variety of classes, which is really fun. I've got human body systems, which I love, the ever anatomy nerd over here. And I've got some wellness courses, personal health. I've got diet and exercise. It's crazy. I've got a nutrition section. Sometimes I don't know if I'm coming or going, but it's definitely a lot of fun to have that variety. And I love teaching. It's fun. It's invigorating and refreshing. And, but it's a lot of work right now.
And you do it all from your computer?
They're all online classes.
Are you like live with your face ever? Do you lecture?
Yeah, I do lecture. It depends on the class, really. Depends on the learning platform that I'm using because I work in 4 different learning platforms right now. So it just depends on the capabilities of them or like how well a certain tool works. So it just depends. And I tend to vary it based on the number of credits the class is, how many students I have, the workload in general. So sometimes I'll add some videos. Sometimes it's just my voice. It just depends on how I kind of feel about a certain topic or what I think they might respond better to.
Wow. And you used to, yeah, and you used to teach in the classroom all the time. So, I mean,
Yep.
Do you feel like this is the future of education, or do you think
I think it's a big component of it. Honestly, especially at a community college setting, you're dealing a lot with non-traditional students that are adult learners. They're maybe changing careers, or they are returning to school after a number of years in a different area, or maybe they stayed at home with their children. And so it's not necessarily feasible for students somebody like that to be in a classroom Monday, Wednesday, Friday for an hour and 15 minutes. It's just might not work out that way, or if they have childcare issues or something like that. So online learning, I think, there's a big push for it to grow, and it continues to grow and evolve and change, which I think is really interesting. There's challenges with it for sure, but there's challenges in a face-to-face setting too. It's just learning how to navigate them.
Yeah, definitely challenges either way. Well, I see we've got people joining us here, so say hello to us. Today we're talking about the first session with a new client. We were just hearing all about Erin's classes that she started. She's teaching for several different higher education systems this fall, and so we're just so lucky to have her here on the show. She's taking time out every week to do more. Yes, awesome. So yeah, say hello to us. Let us know if you have any questions about the first session with a new client. That's what we're talking about today. It's kind of like an interview when you have your first session. And we were just talking before the show about how what you do before that interview is really important, which is something that you mentioned in our other interview episodes, Erin. You said, prepare for it like you would an exam. I remember you saying that. And I think that's the way I always operated. I like to get as much done before that first session as possible. I like to send my paperwork to the client. I like to maybe talk with them on the phone briefly, find out what their goals are, find out if they've seen another trainer, or again, this could apply to any industry, anyone that's working with clients. Have you worked with someone like me before? What did you like? What did you not like? And get some of that out of the way ahead of time so that when you get in there, you can really show your stuff. So that's one of my biggest strategies for working with a new client, is just do some of that paperwork ahead of time so that that hour isn't going so fast and you're not all of a sudden like, oh shoot, you know, I ran out of time. I didn't get to do everything I wanted today.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. I think getting some of that initial kind of administrative stuff out of the way, you know, the necessary forms, and letting them get a chance to read over your services, what you offer, the type of training strategies that you employ. You know, every trainer and every fitness professional has kind of a different niche or a different approach to things, right, wrong, or indifferent. That's just the way that it goes. And so it's all about finding that fit. So does that client mesh with you? Do you guys have a chemistry that clicks together and a synergy that works together? Because that's oftentimes going to predict whether or not you get results. You know, if there's this combination that's just like oil and water and things are not kind of gelling or meshing together, then both parties are going to end up kind of feeling a little burnt out and frustrated. So I like to get some of that out of the way and then spend a little bit of time in that first session just talking to them, having a conversation and that face-to-face kind of what's brought you here, what's motivated you, what type of benefit do you derive from being active, or what are the barriers you've faced in the past? Things like just open-ended questions that can kind of give you an insight into their psyche and what motivates them. Are they extrinsically motivated? Are they intrinsically motivated? Did they come to see you because maybe there's a health benefit at their place of employment and they have to meet certain thresholds, so they're wanting to get to that point where they can get a little bit of a break on their insurance? I mean, everybody's motivated by something different, and so that's why it's necessary to have those initial conversations instead of just dumping right into, okay, here, sign this initial here, and then, okay, get ready, we're going to hop on the treadmill. It's not the best way to facilitate getting into that first session or developing that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I think that you're right on. It can be so really professional in the beginning of a session that you don't get to know them and you're busy staring at paper instead of looking at the person. Like I really like it when people make eye contact with me, and I like it when people are curious about me and asking me questions. And most people are that way. Some are maybe a little bit more introverted, and you've definitely got to be able to read your client and be able to tell, do they like it when I ask them questions? And if they like it when I ask them questions, do we land up just talking and not getting anything done? And I feel like it's very much an art that you have to feel your way through that first session. And I go back to what I've said many times, is that the more you practice, of course, the better. So if you're new to your business and you haven't gotten to do a first session with many people, do first sessions with some of your friends or family, or you could do it for free to take the pressure off, like take the pressure off with the money.
Right. So, for sure. And I think too, another thing that is important is when you're asking the client initially about, so what are your goals? So often they're going to say to lose weight. Yes, that's a long-term goal, but diving in and kind of having that conversation with them to find out how much, what beyond losing weight do you want to achieve, that helps you help them define the goal in a specific, measurable, achievable, reward-based and time-defined way. And it also helps you help them decide, okay, what kind of external tools or resources am I going to have to help this client find? So if it's losing weight and maybe you find out in your interview or investigation into their lifestyle, behavior, and health history that part of their issue is nutrition based and maybe they just don't understand portion control. Okay, so maybe some external resources might be a kitchen scale and some measuring cups. Things like that to help the client really have all the tools necessary outside of what they do with you. You as the trainer or health coach can only control so much. You can control the program and the way that program is modified or advanced, but you don't control what they do outside of it. That's where getting to know them and understanding their personality can help you figure out how do you kind of encourage them along. You know, are they someone that needs that constant like check-in, or is it somebody that is really good with little motivational cues here and there throughout the week when they're not with you? Because we really get very limited time with our clients. We really do.
Yeah, I like the idea of you can't do everything in the first session, but you can let them know that you are a vast pit of tools available. You can just touch on that and say like, hey, this is what we're going to do today. And based off how it goes, I have these other tools available that we might explore, because I think letting them know that there's a lot more to you than just what you show them in that first session is definitely great, which is why I love what we talked about before the show, which is the whole idea of doing 3 sessions instead of 1 session, which is this article in the Idea Journal, The Importance of the Introductory Offer by Troy Fontana. So this is in the Idea Fitness Journal, fabulous publication. And he talks about how he does 3 sessions for $99. And then that way, you've got that client for 3 sessions. So it's not so much pressure in the first session, and the price is lower. So it's not as much pressure on you. And that's kind of what I took away from that, is that it gives you a chance to show someone what you're all about without as much pressure. I know you read it too, Erin.
Yeah, I did. I loved his point about when he first started out as a trainer. And keep in mind, for anyone that is watching or will be watching that is a new trainer or has the desire, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. And just keep in mind that all of the professionals out there were once amateurs and beginners, and we all made errors. And I love that he started out by saying, when I was first trying to build my client list and get my book full, I would just throw the price at him. Oh, it's $50 an hour. And he soon realized that he was putting a price on his services without demonstrating a value. And in order for someone to buy in, they have to see a value. So otherwise it's not like this impulsive, decision. And so he talked about how he kind of reshaped his message and would give them 3 sessions for a certain low price so that he could really demonstrate what it was about. It wasn't just like, hey, I'm a personal trainer and I know all this stuff and I can help get you in shape for $50 an hour. Mm-hmm. He really showed them specifically what he could do in those 3 sessions and kind of gave them a little bit of a taste of what that experience would be like with him, which I think is really important. And I think it's something that all new trainers should consider is how are you going to demonstrate your value?
Yeah.
Because you can only say so much on a business card. You can only say so much on a flyer. How do you demonstrate your value so that it entices clients to want to work with you?
Yeah, I love that. Because even people will do a free session or a free consult, and that can work really well sometimes, but it limits your time. I know I've done free consults with people and for people, and I always feel like crushed for time. I don't have enough time to sell them. It's like so nerve-wracking. And what this guy, Troy, said is that it also attracts people who like free stuff. So they get their free 15 minutes and then they're done, or their free hour session. But so there's just so many different ways. And I liked what you said before the show when we were talking about this, that there's no right way. Like you've got to figure out what works for you. So like, I think when it comes to maximizing that first session, having a system set up that feels comfortable to you, whether it's getting in touch with them ahead of time, finding out their goals, or perhaps, I know one of my business coaching clients right now is setting up like some preliminary videos that people watch before they get started with them. And I know that somebody that I hired this year to do some work with, she sent like a couple meditations and an article to me before we got started. And that was like to kind of get me ready for what to expect. So I think I really like that, doing things ahead of time. And I know we've got some, I see a lot of comments here. I got to take a look at resumes. I think that's more about the interviews. Let's see. You can find more about someone with direct interaction. Angie, do you find that questions. Do you find that new clients shy away from resistance training as if they're going to be too muscly if they lift weights? Yeah, some people, for sure.
Yep, I've gotten that comment a lot inside and outside the classroom, honestly, as a fitness professional, but also as an educator. And, it's just a giant misconception out there that, and I think particularly with a certain gender, I think I get that comment a lot more from females than I do from males, because there is this perception that you lift weights and you're going to turn into a meathead. Not really true. And so that's when it kind of takes that extra effort on the trainer's part to be the educator and talk about in layman terms. I mean, don't throw so much science at them that they're like, what are you talking about? But to talk to them a little bit about the fact that how your body works. everybody's going to respond a little bit differently, but women lack that hormonal profile that's responsible for that incredible muscle gain. There's a certain type of training technique, and to really get to that big and bulky phase for a female, that takes a lot of effort, and that's not something that's naturally going to happen without some intentional intervention.
Yeah,
so, but I do get that, and more than anything, I think I've heard, like, I'm afraid to lift like free weights, and so that's when you can kind of gather that, are they a beginner, an intermediate, or advanced exerciser? What's their experience with it? Because yeah, definitely, if it's somebody that comes in and is apprehensive about, I wouldn't start a brand new client that had no background with free weights right away. I need to know biomechanically if their biomechanical patterns are right. I need to know if their posture is right, their balance is right, all of that before I throw them on a bench press or a squat or, even a dumbbell squat, something like that. So, but yes, Angie, I find that sometimes as well.
Yeah, and it's good to know that ahead of time. That's where getting on the phone before that first session and asking, what's your background with training? Have you had a trainer? Have you attended fitness classes? What do you like? What do you not like about fitness? And why did you come to me? Asking some of those questions can be great. And I love this question, Angie, because it really makes me think about, just kind of giving our listeners a picture of what that first session might look like. And as we said before, we might do our paperwork ahead of time, send them the forms they need to fill out, maybe hop on the phone for 5-10 minutes, ask a few questions, set up that first appointment. And then for me, like Erin had said, in the first appointment, you probably ask them a few questions, about their goals and aspirations, just so that you can see what their face looks like when they say these things and get an idea. And I always like to get the work started pretty quickly. So sometimes I would put them on a bike while I'm talking with them, maybe just get their legs moving or take a walk around the block or something. But I would always ask, I would say, hey, while we're getting to know each other today, do you want to go for a walk around the block for 5 minutes to warm up? And some people will be like, no, I don't have a lot of time. I want to get right into it. And so, And then you've got those people that are like, yeah, let's talk. And that's all they want to do is talk. So you have to really be on your toes. But I kind of had my standard set of basic exercises I would do in the first session. Like you're saying, if they're not used to using free weights, then I would start with mostly machines and just really work on form and making sure everything, or maybe start with basic body weight exercises too, some squats or wall sits. So I think that first session you can kind of have a general workout that you do with people for the first time, but I'm always really good in the moment. So sometimes I would change what I was doing partway through depending on how it's going.
Yeah, very, very true. And I think that adaptability piece that you're talking about comes with time as well. Because I would do that same thing. If I was working with someone that has told me, I don't really have any experience with a structured program. I'm more into the physical activity piece of it, the leisure time, I golf or I walk my dog or, I play with my kids or something like that. So partway through, if I'm assessing, trying to give them moves to do that gives me a picture of their stability, base of support, core strength, things like that. And if I see that it's really good, I might switch gears and do something a little bit more challenging for them to just kind of test their threshold a little bit, not doing maximal lifting or anything like that, but just to kind of see, okay, what this person can handle. Because oftentimes I think people will underestimate or overestimate their skills and abilities. And I see people underestimating more than I do so overestimating. And so they're pleasantly surprised and they're like, oh, I can do that move, So it's about evaluating those patterns, those movement patterns in their body movement.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point about assessments. Where do they fit into the picture? And again, this is all really up to you. Some people will do an assessment ahead of time. Maybe you come in before the first session and you do a 15 minutes of assessments and it's complimentary. Maybe it's part of that first session price. You might have the first session costs a little more than the others because it includes that. Maybe the first session's an hour and a half so that you can do assessments. But assessments, a lot of times, especially if you're doing physical assessments, they're work. They take work. So sometimes I would consider that part of the workout. If you're going to be using
Mm-hmm.
a plank test or a wall sit or whatever it is you want to test strength with, push-ups, crunches,
Mm-hmm.
or a treadmill test, like a 1 mile walk test, that's going to be part of the workout. So you can definitely work that into that first session. I don't think you need to do every assessment in the book. And then there's also postural assessments, and it's a lot to try to figure out for that first session. So, you know, I think just doing a little taste of each of those can be really good. And then seeing, what kind of person are you dealing with? Is it someone who's really into assessments? Are they not really into the assessments? And then you could do more assessments down the road if they're really into them. But doing like a basic postural scan so that they can tell that you know what you're doing, like just taking a look at their posture and doing a few strength assessments, and then maybe doing a body fat or something like that, you know, on the third or fourth session. But sometimes the assessments are what sells it for sure, because then they figure out, they either figure out that they really need this, or that they're better than they thought they were. Because sometimes people don't want to train because they don't feel confident, like you're saying.
Exactly. And I think it's part of the trainer's responsibility to help kind of build that confidence a little bit. I mean, of course, that person has to work on it, but I like what you said about assessments, because not every client fits into the, okay, we need to do the cardio and the muscular strength and endurance and the flexibility along with all the biometric measurements, body fat, heart rate, resting heart rate, blood pressure, etc. I think that can be demotivating for some people because it's overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming for some. So say you have an initial client that comes in that you know has already told you they have a sedentary lifestyle. They, you know, really only engage in their daily physical activity, which isn't maybe involved in their work, where they get up to do light walking to and from, they run errands or whatever. Do you really need to give them a submaximal cardiorespiratory endurance test?
Yeah,
probably not, because you can, I think, safely guess based on the information that you've gathered in their health history and health status questionnaire, or whatever forms your particular certifying agency, you know, has on board or requires. You can kind of say, you know, I don't know that this is necessary. Maybe I'm just going to, it never hurts to build cardiorespiratory endurance. It never hurts to unload the heart from some stress and make the lungs work a little more efficiently. That's something you can safely build into that program, provided that person is already cleared for exercise. If they're a high-risk person, no, send them on their way, get that clearance before you pop them on some sort of bike or do something like that. But yeah, you can safely assume that, this person probably doesn't need to do the 1 mile walk. Probably don't need to do that. So not everybody fits into that box, and that's okay. The assessments are important, but I think what's equally important, if not more important, is all of the information you gather beforehand, finding out their likes, their dislikes, their comfort level, you know, their medical risks. For sure, you have to be able to stratify them in some sort of chart that says, okay, they're moderate risk, they're low risk, or they're high risk. That's just a liability piece for you as the trainer. But yeah, not necessarily subjecting them to 45 minutes of physical assessments is going to be necessary to inform your program design. Is basically what
it makes me think of that old adage, measured twice, cut once. And
yes.
A surgeon, you know, how much they spend time studying and getting to know the condition, and then they go in, they cut, they do what they need to do, and they get out of there. Same with like hanging a picture on the wall. You spend like a half hour. If you spend a half hour measuring, then you hang the picture correctly. But if you just jump right in there, I think gathering all of that information ahead of time and then picking and choosing your assessments is really important. I mean, our industry has definitely taken a turn to like being overly cautious, which is great because we've got a lot of different medical conditions coming to us. We don't know what's going on in someone's body chemistry. So it's good to be overly cautious, but at the end of the day, what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that you need to get results, and you need to show someone in that first session what you're made of and what you can do with them and how you can coach them, or otherwise they may not come back again. And they kind of need to they need to feel some muscle fatigue after the first session, but not be able to get off the toilet. I remember one time I had a new client who I just did I did like 10 squats with her, and that was it. And then she canceled her next session, and I called her and I asked her, I said, what's going on? You know, what happened? You seemed really excited about training. And she's like, you know, you just pushed me way too hard. I haven't been able to get off my toilet all week. She was very upset. And I was able to get her to come back by talking with her. But that really opened my eyes to the fact that I was a new trainer, and I probably didn't do enough homework about her and didn't realize that just doing squats with everybody that walks through the door is not like a good protocol to have. So I think the take-home message here is really just do your homework ahead of time, get to know what type of body is coming through your door. And it's really hard as a trainer to like push them, but not push them too hard. And that's why, again, I love Troy's article about having 3 sessions instead of just 1, so you have a little extra time.
Yeah, I think that's really important, just because it does take time to build that relationship. It takes time to demonstrate your value as a trainer and to truly understand beyond what the client is telling you verbally, what they want to achieve, and for you to really pay attention. It's more than just what they're saying to you outright. And it's about that investigative piece and that trying to understand them on that personal level and the other challenges they face in their life, because it's not just about weight management. It's what things that you can help them develop so they can put in their toolbox to manage their lifestyle. It's not just about weight management or weight loss or anything like that. It's, okay, this client is coming to me with the primary goal of wanting to lose X amount of weight. Well, what are the other barriers in that person's life that's maybe contributing beyond lack of physical activity and poor diet? Maybe it's stress, it's lack of sleep, it's all of these other things. So really paying attention to that person and treating them as an individual. So don't take a one-size-fits-all approach to either your assessments or your training protocol. And definitely keep in mind that you're going to have to adapt along the way. You know, you're going to have to make those changes, and to be okay with that. Be comfortable with maybe not knowing the next move, but being able to read that client in such a way that you train them holistically. Yeah,
and knowing that if again, we always come back to like if you didn't do the best job that you could have, or it didn't come out the way you wanted, you can always make that phone call and try to regain. And sometimes you're going to lose a client because you didn't fit or they didn't like what you did. And it's not, you know, you've got to just move on from that and keep trudging forward, try to understand what happened and fix it if you can. And if you can't, move on, because people, I'm going to bring up April's comment here. People have way more going on than what you see, and it's not always your fault. She says, do a little investigation work, check out their Facebook page. That's a really interesting,
awesome approach.
Really interesting new age. So kind of like do a little background check and find out what's going on with them behind the scenes. You can try so hard to sell someone on your services, and at the end of the day, they just may not be ready psychologically to make that change. And I haven't gotten to look at this. I love hanging the picture. Thank you, Angie. She's just saying that she likes the analogy of measure, and then cut.
Totally. Yeah. And so, I think another thing, and this is what I didn't do well in the beginning of my career, it was learn to not take things so personally. If you do lose a client, you lose a client. Like, it's okay if you're not everybody's cup of tea, because not everybody's your cup of tea. And that's okay. That's why relationships fail or succeed. There's something either missing or there's something really great. And being okay with, we just weren't the right fit. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with that person or anything wrong with you. It just means that, the puzzle pieces don't match up, and that's okay. But I think you have to get to that point in emotional maturity and career maturity to be able to say, that's cool. Maybe you would fit better with this other trainer, versus being like, what did I do wrong? Don't be me. Don't do that. That's what I did in the beginning.
I told you I cried the one time because I was subbing a client and she didn't like how many questions I asked her, and she walked out and I was in tears. I was like, but now I know, we're just not going to jive with everybody. So we give you lots of tips in this episode about the first session, how to navigate it. We would love to hear more about how do you structure your first session? What does it look like? Or your first 3? It'd be great to share with each other. So please jump on in there and let us know how you do first sessions. And like Erin just said, at the end of the day, realize you're not going to jive with everybody, but don't use that. If everybody's canceling on you or never comes to see you again, that could also mean something. And
that might be a bit of a red flag.
Yeah, and if you have any questions, we'd love to answer them for you. Myra says, so true, Erin. It's okay to lose a client. Yeah.
It really is. It doesn't mean you're a poor professional, and it doesn't mean that person sucks as a human. I mean, it's kind of the way of the world and how things go. And I think, getting to that point is important. But to echo what Bev is saying, if you've got a specific question about what forms do I, give to my client or something like that, or I'm having trouble here or there, leave us a comment or contact us. Let us know so we can address it and kind of help you out either in another show or individually.
Yeah, because who knows? I mean, I giggle, so I'm glad Myra is here because Myra helped me with my scarf ordeal this morning. So when you're a fitness professional, you're not always so good at dressing fancy. And I had this scarf sitting in my closet for months, and I'm like, I need to wear it. So thanks, Myra, and Erin helped me a little too. But Erin and I were blown away. Myra taught us an infinity loop with the scarf. So a little sidebar, just a little tidbit. Us fitness gals, we got to be girly sometimes. So I'm glad you're here, Myra. Scarf help. Billy, sometimes the trainer has to fire the client.
Yeah. Oh, that could be a whole episode in and of itself. How do you fire a client and still not, lose your business?
Yeah, that's definitely something I work with a lot of my business clients on is getting rid of people in their schedule that aren't jiving with them, because some people love you because you're positive and happy and exciting, but they might be not the right fit. So yeah, definitely an episode we'll throw that one in there for the future. But we were talking about next week starting a series or maybe a couple episodes talking about results, because at the end of the day, no matter how much someone loves you, most people want to see results. And what are those? What are results? What do results mean? Like, in every business, results are different. For every client, results are different. And so we're going to cover the whole span of results, from physical to mental to emotional to whatever. And we'll talk a little bit about how to get results, because I feel like you can have all the best marketing strategies out there and you can be the sweetest person in the world, but a lot of people, they just really want to see those physical changes, or they want to feel a certain way. And so we'll be diving into that next week on NFPT Live, which is on Wednesdays, 11:30 Mountain Time. And was there anything else you wanted to share, Erin? Sorry, I kind of just headed right into the
No, I think you're fine. I think it was a perfect segue because, what you do in that first session or the first 3 sessions, as we're sort of encouraging, will set you up for results in the future with that client. So if you don't do your homework ahead of time and you don't get to know them, your results are going to be harder to achieve.
Yeah, totally. And how do you get results in the first 3 sessions? I look forward to diving into that, because you can get some results in those couple sessions for sure. But awesome. Well, leave us any other comments or questions. Subscribe to our show and put it in your calendar. I know Myra gave us a great idea. She puts it in her calendar because she doesn't want to be on Facebook all day. So stick it in your calendar so you can join us and have some fun next week. And I think that's it. We'll see you guys next week.
Yes, thanks for joining us. See you next week.